Okay, it's recording. So hopefully I don't get kicked off or anything like that, because that seems to happen quite a bit lately. um, all right, just so everybody's aware, this lesson's being recorded for learning purposes. As we're going through the live class, make sure we're following along with the Nearpod lesson, using the chat tool respectfully and appropriately, and also responding to questions and instructions the first time. All right, so what we're going to talk about, more about risk management. Okay, so risk management is basically how to cover your assets. Have you ever played that game before? Cover your assets. It's like a card game. No, never heard of it. Okay, my there's like a break off of it called Cover Your Cookies, and it has like all a bunch of cookies, and so what you want to do is like you put things on top of each other. So you actually had like so cover your assets. So an asset is basically like something. So if I own my house, that's an asset to me, right? Or I have equity in my house, that's an asset. If I own a car, that's an asset. If I have certain things, how much money in the bank, that's an asset. So in the game, what you do is you take the cards and you have to match them up, and then you place them down, and then you have to put another asset over top of them so people can't steal them from you, right? And so you're protecting yourself from there. So in life, you got to protect yourself from different things that happen. So so it's all about insurance. So insurance is what covers yourself. Before we get too deeply into this, I just wanted to jump right here and let you know that this week we have quizzes 23 through 28 that are due. And if you did miss last week, 17 through 22, I do have those zeroed out, but just go back in, do them, and then they will automatically update your grade. So that's what we're doing this week. So we're going to talk about insurance and risk management. So what risk management is what you're doing is, so let's say, for example, I have my house, right? I love my house, by the way. I don't want to move. It's a beautiful house. Let's say it's worth X amount of dollars. Okay. Well, if something were to happen and maybe the house burned down, like my kids put something in the microwave and it started catching things on fire, which it has before. Luckily, it didn't burn down the entire house. And the house burned down, I would be out my entire house, right? So what you have to do is you have to take a small payment and insure it, is what we call, right? So I put it in a pot full of insurance. So all these people go and they take a little bit of money and they put it in a pot of insurance, right? And they go through different companies like Allstate, State Farm, Geico, Progressive, all these places, right? So what happens is you have this big pot of money, and if somebody's house does burn down, they take money out of there and give it to that person and do there. So yeah, and insurance companies, somebody told me it's like legalized gambling. They just, they take your money, but then when you do have a loss, they try to fight it a little bit. So, but we're going to watch a video at first, and this is going to talk to us a little bit about insurance and the different aspects, and then we'll go into all the more detail about each one of them.
Hi, I'm Becca. Today we will discuss the purposes of insurance and risk management and discuss insurance needs at different stages of life. Life is full of risks. You can try to avoid them or reduce their likelihood and consequences, but you cannot eliminate them. You can, however, pay someone to share them. That is the idea behind insurance. There are speculative risks, that is, risks that offer a chance of loss or gain, such as developing a killer app that may or may not sell, or investing in a corporate stock that may or may not provide good returns. Such risks can be avoided simply by not participating. They are almost always uninsurable. There are pure risks, which are accidental or unintentional events, such as a car accident or an illness. Pure risks are insurable because their probabilities can be calculated precisely enough for the risk to be quantified, which simply means it can be priced, bought, and sold. Risk shifting is the process of selling risk to someone who then assumes the risk and its consequences. Why would someone buy your risk? Because in large enough market, your risk can be diversified, which minimizes its cost. Insurance can be purchased for your property, your home, your health, your employment, and your life. In each case, you weigh the cost of consequence of a risk that may never actually happen against the cost of insuring against it. Deciding what and how to insure is really a process of deciding what the cost of loss would be and how willing you are to pay to get rid of those risks. Unlike insuring property and health, life insurance can combine two financial planning functions, which are shifting risk and saving to build wealth. The decision to buy life insurance involves thinking about your choices for both and your opportunity cost in doing so. Life insurance is about ensuring your earnings, even after your death. You can create earnings during your lifetime by selling labor or capital. Your death precludes your selling labor or earning income from your salary or wages. But if you have assets, they can also earn income. They may be able to generate some or even enough income to ensure the continued comfort for your dependents, even without your salary or wages. In other words, the larger your accumulated asset base, the greater its earnings, and the less dependent you are on your own labor for financial support. In that case, you will need less income, protection, and less life insurance. Besides the idea of life insurance, which another way to protect your beneficiaries is to accumulate a large enough asset base with a large enough earning potential. If you can afford the life insurance premiums, then the money that you will pay in premiums is currently part of your budget surplus and is being saved somehow. If it is currently contributing to your children's education savings or to your retirement plan, you will have to weigh the value of protecting current income against ensuring your children's education or your future income in retirement, or that surplus could be used toward generating that larger asset base. These are tough decisions to weigh because life is risky. If you never have an accident or illness and simply go through life earning plenty and paying off your mortgage, saving for retirement, and educating your children, then all of those insurance premiums just wasted? No. Since your financial strategy includes accumulating assets and earning income to satisfy your needs now or in the future, you need to protect those assets and income, at least by shifting the risk of losing them through a chance of accident. At the same time, you must make risk-shifting decisions in the context of your other financial goals and decisions.
All right. Okay. So you guys wanted to hear the story about how my house almost burned down. Um, so I have a boy that thinks he's bigger than he is. I think at time he was either 4 or 5, but he learned how to use the microwave. And so we actually have a microwave. You know how most of them like open up and stuff like that? We actually have like a drawer one that's like in the bottom. And so he can just pull it out. So we got some Pop Tarts one time and he thought he could just cook a Pop Tart. So he went in there and grabbed a Pop Tart and threw it in. Now, you know, the Pop Tarts are all covered in like tin foil. It's like a tin foil substance. And so what happened is it started and it started sparking and smoking. And then we heard him get out and it was on fire. And so we had to go and we got a hot pad and threw it out or threw it. Actually, I think we threw it outside. I can't even remember what we did with it. But it's just microwave and tin foil do not go together. And my boy learned that and he learned a valuable lesson. And luckily the house didn't burn down. And there wasn't really any damage. Like even the microwave still worked, but because that's an expensive microwave too. So horrible. Okay. So back to risk management, right? So So for example, one of the other things I do in my part-time, I guess, is I teach driver's education. So, um, and what I've learned is it's really good to have insurance while you're driving, right? It's actually mandatory in the state of Utah that you do. Okay. So teens, they cause a lot of accidents. So you guys, who has their license out there? Or who is going to get their license soon, I guess? Me, not me. Okay. All right. So we got a mix of each of you. Okay. So some of you guys have been through driver's ed. You probably know this before. Okay. So why don't we do this together? The number of insurance claims for what accidents? What do you think? So teen accidents. Um, wait, that would not be it. Auto accidents. I'm sorry. Claims for auto accidents involving teens is how much percent higher, do you think? Okay, it's going to be 100% higher than for adults. Teen crashes rate dropped by 40% after 6 months after getting your license. Okay, so the reason I point that out, there's different laws that have come into play. There is what's called the graduated license laws. So that's why, like some of you said, you have your permit right now. Yeah, the GDLs. So you got your driver's license or your permit, right? You have a 6-month waiting period when you get your permit. During that time, you should be doing driver's ed. Once you turn 16 and pass driver's ed, then you can get your license. And then you have another 6-month period where you can only drive with yourself or immediate family in the vehicle. Okay. And that's why, because statistics show that you people get in accidents. When I mean you people, I mean teens. Those that I'm teaching here. Okay. So let's talk about today. Let's say you have your license. Okay. You didn't have insurance. Could you afford the damages you cause in a car wreck? And I'm going to be honest with me, I don't even know if I could, right? Like I feel like I'm in a decent financial position, but if I were to hurt or injure somebody, it could be in millions of dollars, right? An accident, just like that, you know? So you got $5 to your name, somebody said. Um, so the only way that you can mitigate this, right? And a lot of people if you go and you like commit manslaughter, basically vehicular manslaughter, which means you didn't mean to, you could be serving jail because you didn't have insurance to cover some of the stuff, right? So it's super important to have that information. So there's different risk management things that you'll want to look out through your life. You guys are young, so your automobile insurance is probably a big one, okay, that you're probably need to think about. Health insurance might be important depending on how healthy you are or not. There are mandates for that now, but it's important. Like my kids, they do dumb things, and we got to go to the doctor all the time, right? We had an accident. We were in Lake Powell this last summer, and we were boating. We went over by Rainbow Bridge, and my daughter, something flew out of the boat, and she's like, "I'll get it," and so she jumped out and actually hit on an area, and actually the boat cut her a big, huge cut all the way up her leg, and she was bleeding like crazy. And we had to put her in the boat, and luckily we had a baby on board, so we had diapers, and we put diapers on there to basically so. But yeah, that was, I can't remember, like $10,000 or something like that. That little accident. Okay. Um, I have a hard time in Lake Powell's. Lake Powell and I don't get along. Let's just say that. Okay, so we had that. So I'll tell you another story about Lake Powell. So we had that. luckily we have health insurance, so we had to pay out our deductible and stuff like that. So it only cost like $1,500 instead of 10,000, right? So, oh, that hurt. I had another time when I was in Lake Powell. It was actually the year before, where we're cruising along Lake Powell, and my brother-in-law was driving, and my boy was surfing off the back. They actually surf on the kneeboard, so he's going through there. We're just going around, and they say, we hit bottom, freaking tore out like a lot of the thing. We were 5 hours away, or I can't remember how many miles away, but it took us 5 hours to get back to the dock. We had to go super slow, and it just wasn't good. And that one cost a lot. But I had insurance on the boat, so it actually only cost me $250 because my deductible is $250. So I'm gonna tell you, you guys need insurance because, as you can tell, I use my insurance. Life insurance, I have life insurance too. So if I were to die, my wife, my kids, they would be able to my wife should be able to raise the kids all the way up until they're out of the house, and she should still have money left over with the amount of life insurance I got. So it'd pay off our house. They probably wouldn't have as quality of life, but it would still be financially they'd be set. Renters and homeowners insurance, we talked about that as well, burning down the house. Disability insurance is another one. So if I were to get an accident, get disabled, how am I going to pay for my life, right? So there's disability insurance that can get paid out. So there's all different kinds of insurances. You can insure so many different things. What you do is, we talked about, you have to pay a little bit of money. This little bit of money is called a premium. Either pay that monthly or annually or semi-annually. My dad is actually an insurance agent, so I got a lot of insurance. So that's maybe why I know about it. A deductible. Okay, so we talked about the deductible. So, for example, I have a vehicle and a newer car, and so I got 3 days after I got it, I got a rock chip, and it was horrible. It actually looked like a Tesla sign. Tesla kind of comes up like that. Anyways, because it was a newer vehicle and I was the new windshield was $1,200, but I had a $0 deductible on my windshield coverage, and they paid for all of it. So just another thing, right? That's I got way too many issues, but all different kinds of insurance. Does that mean grade insurance exists where you pay each month to insure your grades? What do you mean by that? I'm sorry. So you should ensure your grades aren't going to go down. Guaranteed A's for a monthly fee. Hey, that's a good idea, actually. Maybe if I wouldn't be violating some student fee laws, maybe I'll put that out. I'll give you guys a Venmo, and you guys can just Venmo me $5 a month to keep an A. Would that be worth it to you guys? Just kidding. All right. So on automobile insurance, they have different medical coverages. I talked about unfortunately, car accidents, people get hurt, and that coverage needs to be covered by whoever is liable for it, right? Whoever caused the accident. And then there's stuff to pay for your car, that kind of stuff. They have these wonderful people called actuaries. So actuaries is just a fancy word for mathematician guy that crunches all the numbers and finds out what it is. They take your age, your gender, your marital status, your type of car, how much your car costs, your mileage, location, how many tickets you have, and they put it together and they say, oh, with all of this stuff, this is how much your car insurance would be, right? And of course, these companies are trying to make money, so it's usually a little bit higher than what it actually costs. So, okay, health insurance. Okay, health insurance. This has changed over time, so you can actually stay on your parents' health insurance until you are, let's see here, 26, I believe, and then 26 you can get off. But what it does is help pay for your medical bills, that kind of stuff. A lot of times you have a big deductible, so you got to pay that deductible prior for them to pay out and stuff. So there is some risk that you have to have there. The higher deductible, the lower you have to pay for your premium, though. So that's good. We talked about property insurance. So there's different types, like on a regular insurance, like homeowners, it doesn't include like flood or earthquake, that kind of stuff. That's something you have to like buy separately. So for example, like earthquake insurance is expensive, so I don't have it, right? A lot of people don't have earthquake insurance. And so, little things like that, you have to like give them the risk. I figured if we have a bad earthquake, everybody's going to be in the same boat and I'll just be in trouble, I guess, right? Life insurance, we talked about that. There is some investment features in some life insurance policies, so you can look into that when you get older. But there's all types of insurance. There's more than what we talked about that I went over. But one thing is, like, once you start developing assets, right? Like homes, cars, all that kind of stuff. They're all paid off for. You really need to look and see what's going to happen. Create what's called an estate plan. Okay, so you have your estate. Maybe this is something your parents kind of need to start doing as well, where you create a will or a trust or whatever. So once those pass away, people pass away, that it actually stays with the family and doesn't go, because if there's not a will or a trust involved, what happens is it goes to what calls probate, and probate's ran by the government, and then they evenly distribute things to the supposedly next of kin, right? But to really have it go to where it needs to go, you really need to have a will and a trust. So I have a trust. So like my house, I don't have my house paid off for yet, but in my house, it's under a trust. So it's owned by the trust. So any equity into it. So if I were to die, if both my wife and I were to die, they could sell the house and all that money would go in the trust. And the trust is dictated by the will, and the will says who gets what, right? So for example, like there's certain people, like I'd want my kids to be raised by certain people, that kind of stuff. They would get so much money each month from my life insurance policies and that kind of stuff, and everything would go into there, and then it would all go to my dependents. So I know you're probably thinking like this is boring, this is like old people stuff, but eventually you'll have to think about it. So okay, that's all I got for you today. Okay, so this week, just a reminder, you need to, let's see here if this will ever come up. Okay. Eventually, when it comes up, you have some quizzes due. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. So you have quizzes 23 through 28 that's due this week. So, okay. That's all I got for you today.